Templeton Board of Selectmen. As the previous chairman of the board, I will call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to begin by welcoming Julie Richard to the board. Thank you for your service to the town. It is very much appreciated. The very first agenda item we have is reorganization of the board. Per our policies and procedures, the Board of Selectmen is to be reorganized by vote of the board following the annual town election in the spring. So there are three positions that we appoint: chair, vice chair, and clerk. So to begin with, do I have a nomination for chairman of the board?
I nominate Ken Robinson.
I second that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and to start discussion, I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate your confidence in my ability. However, I've been on the board now for 2 years, and during the first year I was acting chair for much of the year, and during this year I was chairman for the whole year. And as I've said to many of you, I will not be running for re-election in the next year. So this is my last year on the Board of Selectmen. So I would really like to take this year to focus on my number one issue, which is trying to encourage a business-friendly environment in Templeton, rather than acting as chairman this year, to kind of just serve as a member. So I greatly appreciate that. And as of this afternoon, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I graciously decline that nomination to be chair. So do we have another nomination to be chair?
Well, then I nominate John Columbus.
Okay, I have a nomination
You don't wanna do that.
for John Columbus to be chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any further or any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I think you've done an outstanding job. I'm sorry to hear that you're not going to continue.
Well, you're still stuck with me for one more year, but on the board. But thank you. I appreciate that. Is there any further discussion? If not, Diane,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. The next position that we have is vice chairman of the board. Do I have a nomination for vice chairman of the board?
I nominate Ken Robinson.
Is he going to say no to that too? Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? I really would like to just serve out my final year as just a member of the board. So while I again appreciate that, I will decline the nomination. Is there a second, or is there another nomination for vice chair? I will nominate Diane Haley Brooks. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion, or any discussion? Okay,
No.
If not, Diane,
Yep.
Julie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. And
Thanks.
finally, we have clerk is the final position. Do I have a nomination for clerk?
Nominate Doug Morrison.
Okay. Doug Morris. That's what he gets for not being here. Is there?
What's that?
He doesn't get to have a voice?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a first and a second for Doug Morrison to be clerk. Is there any discussion? If not, Diane,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So with all three positions appointed, my work is over. So here you go. Thanks.
I don't know whether to say thank you or not. All right, our next order of business is the town administrator's report. Bob?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I thought what I would do is go over briefly some of the recommendations of the advisory board that I received today. I sent you an electronic copy, but let's just go through them briefly. I think I'll just start at the summary page, the first page there. As you can see, in general government, That's moderator, selectmen, advisory board, town accountant, assessors, treasurer collector, assistant treasurer collector, town council, technology, telephone and web, and town clerk. Their recommendation is the same as that of the Board of Selectmen. No changes there. Land Planning Division, that's Conservation Commission, Agriculture Commission, Open Space Committee, Planning Board, and Board of Appeals. There is a difference. The $12,000 that the Board of Selectmen included in the Planning Board's budget for the next phase of the master plan was taken out. The next general category is other general government. That's town reports, town buildings, town vehicles, town travel, insurance, and retirement. As you can see, the bottom line number is the same for the advisory board and the Board of Selectmen. By the way, look at the number. It's a big number. If anyone wants to know how the town spends its money, a lot of it is spent right here on our buildings, our vehicles, and particularly insurance and retirements, $2,147,000. Next category is public safety. That's police department, fire department EMS, building inspector, sealer of weights and measures, animal inspector, animal control, emergency management, tree warden, communications commission, and other. As you can see, there are some differences. In the case of the fire department budget, there was a reduction by the advisory board. The building inspector is modestly reduced, and the communications commission, which is dispatch, is reduced $25,000. So those are the differences there. Public facilities and public works, highway department is the same. Vehicle and machinery maintenance is the same. Snow and ice removal the same. Street lights the same. Solid waste disposal and cemetery department, advisory board and Board of Selectmen recommend the same amounts. Human Services, that's the Board of Health, the Council on the Aging, and Veterans Benefits. There is a reduction in the Board of Health account, and that is a cut in the salary account for the health agent. Otherwise, Council on the Aging is the same, and Vets Benefits is also the same. And then lastly, Culture and Recreation. We have Library, same recommendation. Recreation Commission, same. Arts Council, same. Historic Commission and Celebrations, same amounts. Charges, abatements, and offsets. There's a significant difference here. It seems as though the advisory board would like the town to cover the entire amount of the snow and ice deficit in this budget. We were optimistic that we were going to get a higher reimbursement from FEMA in Washington, which would be passed through the state, MEMA, and down to us for the snow events in February. As it turned out, the federal government has authorized reimbursements for only the 2 days when we had that monster storm. And rather than getting $107,000, we're going to get significantly less. I don't have a final number yet from Rich Kearns, but in the range of $30,000. So we're going to be underwater in the range of $90,000 in the snow and ice account for the year. And there are a number of options to address that. Number one, it can be addressed this way in the fiscal 16 budget, in the budget itself. Number two, it can be addressed on the tax recap sheet. And number three, the legislation that the governor has sponsored where you can do it over 5 years. I wouldn't recommend that we do it over 5 years, but that is an option in the law. And it would seem as though the reductions that we've traced here all fall to that particular line item, which would cover that deficit. So that's what it looks like.
Any members have any questions for Bob?
Sorry?
Ask if any members had any questions for you
Oh.
regarding this?
Yeah, actually, well, they weren't really questions we had in this discussion, although I understand that there won't be as much money now. I think that a reduction to public safety should not be an option at all. There was a situation, I think I just asked you about this, I forget what town it was, but where a tree fell on several small children, and we are not going to have a tree warden again, and I think that that's a large mistake on our part, not forward-thinking on that. And I mean, I called the chief, and I discussed, what those reductions would do to those departments, and I just disagree with that. As far as the Board of Health, we talked at length about that, and they are a revenue-producing department, and, I don't understand why we keep going back and forth about that. But those are just my, summations. But
I was asked by a member of the board to find out how much the town takes in for licenses and permits through the Board of Health. We can't isolate it, Board of Health, at this point. Our town accountant wasn't here this afternoon, but Board of Health and Building Department combined last year generated $106,000. So it is those two departments are cash cow departments, in fact.
well, they
Especially when you have a good economy.
business here
if
and
you have a
building
good
in the
economy,
town.
yeah.
In cutting the hours of that position, was the loss of revenue taken into account?
We'd have to know what the revenue was the year before, or when they were when he was more full-time, yeah. We'd have to look at that.
The revenue totals, as I recall, were actually a little bit above last year than they were the year before. I think we were around 95,000 the year before. We went up to 106.
Oh,
It's
there's-
more
there's been more building
dependent
here,
upon
John.
the economy than anything else.
Yeah.
Although clearly, if you don't have the capacity to do inspections, that's a problem. So right now, this year, it looks like building permits are moving rapidly. So, I mean, more so than before. So that the town's economy seems to be emerging. I was told that we're seeing significantly more permits for additions and modifications to existing homes and some new homes.
Kent?
I would just say, seconding what Diane said about the tree warden, believe it or not, when I was out and about at the annual town yard sale
Yeah.
this Saturday, 2 people, that was the only question I got involving town politics and government, are we funding a tree warden this year? Because there have been
People
people
are
that have been,
concerned.
that have dead trees on their properties that are, abut roads that have been waiting since 2012 or whenever the last time we had. Because if we don't fund this is a zeroed out item, so it's not a reduction. We don't have a tree warden
Again.
if we follow the advisory board's recommendation.
Bob, you know what happens? I believe the Mass General Law provides that the town has to have a tree warden.
There's a machine over here. I'm not hearing you very well.
Mass General Law provides that the town has to have a tree warden.
We do. Yeah, we haven't had one.
And what happened? I mean, there are duties associated with that position.
There are.
What happens?
I think under a financial emergency situation, the state is not going to do anything. As the town's financial situation gets back towards normal, we might very well see that the town could be reported to the state for non-compliance, and then we would get some pressure from the state to do something. So I mean, this is something I guess we'll have to settle on the floor, but we have liability issues, the trees on public property, and you can neglect them for a year or two, but after a while, the work piles up and you get lots of difficulties with it.
Anything else?
No.
All right, health insurance?
Okay, the next item, yes. We've come to the end on the whole health insurance change. As you know, we've had, I believe, 8 meetings with the Insurance Advisory Committee. This board did appoint a representative of the retirees. We did conduct a survey of the union representatives, which is what the law provides. The law provides that each union designates a representative. And we got responses as to which of the plans and which of the options would be preferred. We started out with the announcement from Maya that our health insurance costs would go up 8.9% in the coming year. That's not sustainable by the town. We simply can't. The only way we can pay 8.9% more for health insurance, where the total bill is nearly $1 million, is to squeeze everybody else. If you are going to be spending 8.9, your revenue is going to go up 3. Obviously, it's going to create pressure on the other departments. So the message is that that's not sustainable. So we worked with the Insurance Advisory Group to come up with an alternative. Maya suggested that if we accept a different benefit plan, a different plan design, which would provide higher copays and some other changes whereby the employee would accept some higher costs, that it would bring the increase down to 3%. It was then suggested if we were to do what is done routinely and commonly in the private sector, and that is accept significantly higher copays for inpatient and outpatient instances, and come up with a pool of money to try and subsidize that we could get our increase down to 1%. Well, we ran the numbers. I looked at all the numbers. It boils down to this: the town's savings on a 3% increase versus a 1.1. The difference between 1.1 and 3 is around $22,000. If you take, we did a survey of the inpatient and outpatient instances in the last 2 years, and if you take a normal year and the town were to cover those copays, higher copays, out of a pool of money that we set aside, the town would save a minimum of $10,000. And so you authorized me to make the decision. That's the decision that I made. I believe it is in the interest of the town. It is also, by the way, in the interest of the employees. Do they take a 3% hit or do they take a 1.1% hit? So both the town and the employees, I believe, will do better under this plan. And so that's where we're going. We will set up, in addition to that, the Section 125 program, the IRS Section 125, which allows employees to set aside money before taxes to cover incidental expenses associated with their health care. Mostly that means expenses in the pharmacy, or for copays, or for eyeglasses, or you name it. There are a number of expenses where you can use those funds that you set aside. It's the closest thing that I know of to a free lunch offered by the federal government. And many communities use it. It is both, in effect, it gives the employee, depending upon their tax bracket, 20, 25, 30% increase in their income to spend on health care, because all that spending is pre-tax. So we're going to implement the Section 125 as well. And so the numbers in the budget, and here again, it's a very significant amount of money that the town is spending. In the whole process, the light and water departments requested that they be able to continue with the existing plan. And so I called the Maya office and talked with them. They're normally not agreeable to splitting your coverage. They want one plan for the whole workforce. But because Light and Water has, I believe, 21 employees and retirees, they were willing to do it. And so they're still under the town's program, but they are going to continue with the existing program and accept the higher rate of increase.
Now, this agreement is for how long?
1 year.
1 year.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing this all again next year.
Yeah. Well, we sign an agreement for health insurance every year, regardless of what we do. It's annually we have to renew. In connection with that, I want to mention that I think we're coming towards the end in the bid process for general insurance as well. And it looks like we will have 3 bidders. Any more since I've been away? No, 3 bidders. So hoping we can save some money on that as well. Union negotiations continue towards new contracts. I think as a practical matter, nothing's going to get settled until town meeting, and we see whether or not town meetings is willing to go along with the proposed increases. But if the town meeting does approve, then we have some money that we can use to settle contracts. Lastly, I spoke with the highway superintendent today about the excavator. As you know, the town meeting, the town electorate turned down the debt exclusion. We still have a situation where we have a 1989 vehicle that is doubtfully operational for another season. And so we have to figure out something to do there. And it's leaking. They're going to try and tear it apart, see if there's anything that they can do. But as I'm sure you all know, manufacturers stop supporting equipment after a number of years. You can't buy parts. You have to go into the used parts market, which we've already done this year for another vehicle. And so we have a problem. I just want to keep the board apprised of it.
Can I ask a question? Dave, can I please put you on the spot? A lot of people after that did not pass asked me what you need an excavator for. Like what was really the necessity of that? Like you don't use it to plow roads, you don't.
Culvert diggings, roadside diggings, a lot of, if we ever have to assist the water department again.
Okay. The people that I talked to felt that it wasn't necessary at all for you to have that.
Unplug drains,
Okay,
use the ground, put stuff
okay.
out.
All right,
There's a lot of use, and we'd be using a lot more than we are, really risking having to call somebody to get it back for us.
And you use it during the winter also?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer?
Just 2 other items. You have a new schedule for Selectmen's meetings. Pass that out,
Is
right?
that in here?
Everyone have that? Oh, you emailed it. Okay, there's a new
Did you email
schedule.
that separately, right? You emailed that, okay. I did see it.
I had already emailed you guys about it
Yeah.
before.
Also, and lastly, the Flags for Veterans program is going to take place on Sunday, the 17th. Will begin at 10 a.m. Scouts have requested a little bit later due to church services. They'll meet at the Green Lawn Cemetery and then move on to Pine Grove Cemetery, and then lunch will be provided afterwards. This is from the cemetery superintendent. So,
Jennifer, do you have a question?
I just have a question in regards to.
Could you speak up a little bit? I can't hear with
Just
it.
had a question in regards to the excavator.
Yeah?
They had that was the 300,000 they were requesting for that, right? So last year, the loader didn't pass, but they still bought the loader through the chapter 90 money, correct?
Yep.
At 180,000. But they still kept the old loader and put $17,000 into that, which means that you have now 2 of them registered. You're still putting in work into the old one that was supposedly, right?
I'm not sure I can respond to that,
The
Dave.
one we put the 17 grand into was prior to buying to get through the winter before.
Is it still on the road?
It is still being used limited. Actually, right now, it is down. We're replacing all the hoses on it because they're not safe to be used. We're still on the outside. I'd like to point out too, that the voters voted down a tax increase to buy an excavator. Don't know if you put the question out of whether or not they want to buy one. If you can get it another way other than through taxation, they may want it, especially if we need it.
The only other way to do it is to take Chapter 90 money, which then compromises your road program.
Trying to do road work without machines.
I know, that's the issue.
Catch-22.
Yeah. So,
It's senseless to go out with equipment, you can't get a job done, it's expected to it. You gotta pay the help, you gotta pay all the expenses, and get the contractors lined up, and if your equipment doesn't keep going, your contractors are there, how come you're not done, how come you're not ready? It's in your ballpark.
and again, the town has a budget of $100,000 plus this year to maintain equipment. Now, that's a lot of money, and some of it, I'm sure, is not necessary if the equipment were not in such poor condition and breaking down.
Jeff?
I have a question, yeah, just here,
Jeff?
I just
Jeff,
have
could you
a,
speak up, please?
Yes. Going back to the health agent building department, where would I find that information where the revenue generation is in the $100,000 range?
If you look at the budget that is posted on the website, it'll be posted tomorrow. The budget will be posted tomorrow. We wanted to make sure we got the recommendations in of the advisory board. I've done some additional work on that, but you look in the budget tomorrow and you'll see about a half a dozen tabs. First tab is the budget, the second tab is revenue. And if you look at the third tab, it gives you the revenue breakout. And it says licenses and permits. And it'll say for last year, $106,000.
Because the reason I'm asking is because I've looked at the last few annual town reports, 14, 13, 12, and 11.
Right.
And under the board, just the Board of Health, under the licenses, inspection for food permits and septic calls and things, it's between $17,000 and $20,000 reported in the annual town report. And then up at the expense part where you have the salary for the health agent, for the administrative assistant, for the office expense, for the landfill,
Right.
inspection expense and all of those. And then on the right, in the annual town report, it has
Right.
turned back to the town.
Right.
It goes between $4,000 and $7,000. The health inspection salary, the agent salary is $60,000.
Right.
The building, the health insurance, health department is generally, for what's in the annual
Yep.
town report, is spending $4 to bring in $1 of revenue. The building department
yeah.
is generally $3 spent to bring in $1. I just don't know where you're getting the $100,000.
Building, in other words, as I mentioned earlier,
Because it's not in the annual town report.
the accountant wasn't available this afternoon after I heard the question posed by a member of the board. So I can't find that out until tomorrow or Wednesday, but we'll certainly have the breakout. That 106 is what we get from the building department, and those would be building inspections and also plumbing, wiring, and so forth, as well as the health department. breaking that number down further is something I cannot do, but we will have that information available.
I'm just going by past
Yeah, right.
annual official annual town
Right.
reports of the departments.
Right.
And,
Right, okay.
All right, let's,
Right.
Sue,
If you, Jeff, if you want to see, it's combined, if you want to see for after how many years, you go all the way back on the DOS website, on page 2 of the recap sheet,
Yeah.
the line will say licenses of permit is in there. And
Yeah.
keep in mind, last year we had the licensing of the solar field, which we will not have in the years going forward.
Yeah.
That's my,
Right.
the official annual town reports of the
No, well,
departments.
the town got significant revenue from that.
Has not been-
well, let's wait until we have the hard numbers, then we'll have something to talk about, okay? Let's go on to minutes. We have minutes of March 30th. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Diane?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Julie? Chair votes yes, unanimous. Minutes of April 23rd.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd,
Second.
2015.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Diane?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, unanimous. April 30th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 30th, 2015.
I'll second.
Discussion? Diane?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that's unanimous. Appointments, I'm going to ask that the board take no action on this tonight because our policies and procedures state that we make appointments in June. So if there's not anything on there that's pressing, I would like to put that off until another time.
Is there anything on, well, can Holly answer that? Is there anything on here that's not going to?
Because I had given this over to Alicia
Yeah.
this year, and she just got started early. And I actually got a call from Carol Harris. People are coming in saying they're appointed for something. I don't have the list yet. And I said, well, we put it off till after the election, so I'll do it this week. But we can just wait. It's not urgent.
All right, then we will take no action on that. Action on licenses.
Yeah, this is for the annual licenses for the Otter River Sportsman's Club for their one-day licenses for all summer,
Okay.
all the events they have.
All right. I am going to recuse myself from this because I have a relationship with another licensor. So
Thanks for that, John.
it's all yours.
Thanks a lot for that, John. Okay, so, I read through all these. You sent these to me. All of us, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we read those. I honestly, do we do them, so, I've never done this, so.
Usually the
Do we do
list is
this?
read and then
We
we
read
vote
through the
all
whole
at
thing?
once, yeah.
Okay, so the first one is a license for inn holders, common victuallers, and other keepers of restaurants and other establishments. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 140 of the General Laws as amended by Chapter 299 of the Acts of 1926, and amendments thereto, licenses hereby granted to Otter River Sportsman's Club to conduct the amusement as herein described in connection with the one-day all kinds of alcoholic beverages liquor license of inn holder establishment on the premises owned by Otter River Sportsman's Club of Templeton located at 250 Lord Road. On the pavilion next to the club at 250 Lord Road, as shown on the sketch submitted by the Otter River Sportsman Club, Assessors Map 5-8, Parcel 17, at 250 Lord Road. Description of amusements to be conducted, outdoor live entertainment bands and DJ to be conducted on Saturday, June 13th, noon to midnight, Saturday, June 27th, noon to midnight, Saturday, July 11th, 4 p.m. to midnight, Tuesday, July 14th, 12 p.m. to midnight, Saturday, July 18th, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, July 26th, 7 p.m. to midnight, Sunday, August 2nd, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday, August 8th, 4 p.m. to midnight, Saturday, August 22nd, 12 p.m. to midnight. The license is granted as subject to the provisions of the general laws, Chapter 140, Sections 22 to 32 inclusive, and of Chapter 272, Sections 25 to 37 inclusive, and amendments thereto, and shall not be valid for a location other than herein as described.
I make a motion to approve the licenses as read.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The next one,
This is actually a new date,
this is what?
a different date than the first page.
Okay, hold on.
But we
This
still
is
have
also,
more. Yeah, sorry.
sorry, John. Is he only leaving for just the Otter River Sportsman's Club class?
Well, this one is, I don't know, but this one.
These are all the same one.
Yeah.
This is to certify that Max O'Malley, manager of Otter River Sportsman Club, 250 Lord Road, Otter River, 01436, is hereby granted a special license for the sale of all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises under Chapter 138, Section 14 of the Liquor Control Act. A one-day all kinds of alcoholic beverages license for the dates listed below to be exercised on the pavilion next to the club at 250 Lord Road, as shown on the sketch submitted by the Otter River Sportsman's Club, Assessor's Map 58, Parcel 17. Hours 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., Monday through Saturday, and 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday. This license is granted in conformity with the statutes and accordances relating thereto and expires 12 a.m. July 25th, 2015, unless sooner suspended or revoked. Restrictions. There can be no crossover related to alcoholic beverages purchased. The alcoholic beverages must be purchased separately from a vendor with a separate receipt showing the purchase. The alcoholic beverages cannot be taken or carried from the club. The alcoholic beverages must be kept stored at the pavilion in a secured designated area. The alcoholic beverages must be confined to the pavilion. One person must be in charge. Proof of liquor liability, certificate of insurance must be on file with the Board of Selectmen. 0 licensing fee.
I make a motion to approve the license as read.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. This is also approval of a special license for May 11th, 2015, to the Otter River Sportsman's Club, Max O'Malley, manager, at 250 Lord Road on July, this is for the same one?
I think so.
It's the same thing, right?
think it's the
Okay.
same
I'm
one.
sorry, we already did that.
This one has new dates though. The next one.
The next one is for the Otter River, do I have to read the whole thing still?
No, just the dates.
Okay, so the next one is also for the Otter River Sportsman Club, a special license from the hours of 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Monday through Saturday, 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday for August 2nd, August 30th, August 8th, August 22nd, September 6th, September 26th, and Sunday, September 27th. All the same fees, but there's a $350 license fee. Everything else is the same.
I make a motion to approve the license as read.
I have a first, do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Next one's the same. The next one is also for the Otter River Sportsman's Club for the same type of license. One day all kinds for Saturday, May 23rd, May 30th, June 13th, June 15th, June 18th, June 20th, June 26th, June 27th, July 4th, July 11th, July 14th, and July 18th. All the same apply except a $600 license fee.
I make a motion to approve the licenses as read.
First, do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Same. That's it. All set? Can you ask John to come back in?
There we go.
Thank you.
Signatures.
I'm sure you did a great job, Diane.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so we are at action on dissolving committees. We have some committees we need to get rid of.
We have one, and Chief Bennett's here to talk about that.
Chief?
Yes, a few weeks ago, I went to Mr. Marco, and I also spoke to Ollie concerning the communications. Technically, the dispatch center falls under two entities, police department and the communications commission. When Chief Riddick was chief, he went in front of the board of selectmen, and he had the communications commission changed to where he took over the personnel. He controls all of the personnel, the policies, hiring, firing, well, not appointing, hiring, obviously, the board appointing. And the commission still oversaw technically the communications budget, the expenses budget. When the budget came down and we lost our secretary, who is employed by the police department, dispatch, she was also, in essence, the communications commission's secretary. So that made really no sense that our employee was doing their work. When the budget came down and the cuts were made, I was not allowed to hire because of the hiring freeze. And then the new position that we were doing, because it is a slash dispatcher, all the regulations on bringing in a new dispatcher are quite restricted, where an individual can't even sit behind the desk until they're fully certified. So we haven't been able to bring another person in to take that position over, which I am going to be doing June 1st when our dispatcher comes from military, contract from military. So the point of it is this whole entire time that I've been chief, I've been doing all of the work as a commissioner. I pay their bills. I watch the budget, everything for the commission on the expense side, and I am also in charge of the dispatchers. I'm talking to Mr. Marco, and I was supposed to meet, or tried to meet with them, the Communications Commission, last Wednesday to discuss this, because technically they are now only in charge of the radios in town. I have conversed with Chief Laporte, and we spearheading it would be to dissolve the commission, have everything just fall solely under the police department, and each town department would be solely responsible for their radios. I wish that I could have more information on that, but I was not able to meet with the commission last Wednesday. They canceled their meeting. So I would say we can't take action right now. That is the gist of what I would like to do, but I can't. I think we need to speak with, I need to speak with them first and have them here in order for action to take.
One quick question. Bob, does the board have the authority to dissolve this committee?
We had one discussion of this. We haven't discussed the legal method to change or abolish the commission. I have a sense, I have to go and look at the bylaws, because I was out of town last week, but my guess is it may require a town meeting vote.
Okay, I'm not sure of that myself.
Well, it's not in the
I
bylaws.
don't think it's in the bylaws, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, if it's not in the bylaws, the board can do it, but if it's in the bylaws, we've got to go to town meeting.
Mr. Robinson?
My only question would be, given that all of our dispatch expenses are still paid through a grant every year,
No,
we don't have the grant anymore?
they're not entirely paid through the grant.
How much is the grant for?
The grant runs roughly $119,000 per year. This year's grant, which I submitted, 96,000 of it is for salaries, and the rest are for expenses which cannot be covered under the communications expense account because it's not, it's way woefully underfunded.
And then through the chair, my next question would be, what is the expense to the taxpayer separate from the grant? What I'm getting at is, I think that it may be in our best interest to realize what the effect of dissolving the commission may or may not have on a grant that
Well, the
provides.
grant doesn't go through the commission.
I know it doesn't,
It
but
goes through the police department.
I understand, but my question would be if there is a requirement to just, like for playground grants, apparently you have to spend taxpayer money that then gets revoked from you. I didn't know if there was perhaps a similar, if we were required to have a commission in order to get that grant.
No,
Okay,
the
that's,
commission has
yeah.
no control over the grant. They have no input on the grant. It's
And we don't
solely-
have to have one in
No.
order to, okay.
I
Sorry,
wrote,
that's it.
I wrote the grant and submitted it.
So it looks like we're kind of premature in bringing this up tonight. Maybe we could research this and come back to this at another
Okay.
time?
I mean, I think what we talked about was what kind of patterns exist in other communities. In other communities, basically, the dispatch operation, or communications, is under the police chief. De facto, that's the way it operates here. And so I'll look into what would need to be done if you decide to go forward with the chief's request. We are providing general fund money. Actually, the recommendation this year was 225, and the advisory board recommendation is 200,000. So, in addition to grant money, and in my discussions with the chief, the cost of running the dispatch operation is bouncing on $250,000. And so, what they don't have in general fund money, they supplement with the grant money. All right.
And if I might say, the reason why dispatch was increased this year, or communication salary was increased, was because when Governor Baker took over, he did not sign the bond for the 911 grant, meaning we were going to get no money. And if that was the case, the communications budget was going to be woefully underfunded. We would not have met the requirements. We supply a service for the town of Phillipston, which pays us $54,000 a year for services, which if you took that 54 and put it right into the budget, it would bring it to where it needs to be, which I expressed to Mr. Markle. The grant isn't for running the dispatch center. The grant is for having additional services to the community above and beyond the basics. So as we sit there and we see hours of need during the day and week that say we put on extra shifts in the summertime, 6 to 2 on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights because they're busy, you need an extra dispatch in there. Burn season on the weekends, on Saturday, Sunday, when burn permits come in, we can put those extra shifts on. And then at the end of the year, it also pays for their training. At the end of the year, if there's any money left over, which in previous years there were, the chief would work with the town and make arrangements that if we would move money into the highway maintenance account to help offset because they worked on our cruisers all year. Or if we needed a cruiser and the town couldn't purchase one, if there were excess money, we would use that money, transfer it into account, use that money to purchase a cruiser to save the town money. But with the budget so cut, that grant hasn't been, it's just barely made.
All right, well, what we'll do is, Chief?
I'd just like to throw in that the dispatchers are highly professional, very well-trained staff, supervised quite well by the police chief, and we enjoy working with them. Since he pretty much financially oversees the whole salary line, it doesn't make sense for me to see it under a separate communications commission. When he's doing the work into all up for about $25,000 or so, it's the expense money for the uniform and stuff. Whatever. It just seems as though it makes more sense structurally to give it all under his direction.
Well, like I said, I think we'll bring this up at another meeting after Bob's had a chance to find out how we legally do it, whether the board can do it, or whether we need to go to town meeting to do it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have a question, or just maybe I'm a little confused or something. But I thought last year at Board of Selectmen's meeting, the Board of Selectmen was told that dispatch only cost the town Templeton $34,000 a year.
That doesn't
I have
sound...
the paper that was issued to the Board of Selectmen from the former chief
All
of
right,
police.
all right, we're done with this. It'll come up at another time.
But that's an issue.
All right.
Incorrect information is put out in front of the board.
All right, cable TV station manager, Steve?
I'm gonna sit over here because I'm kind of doing double duty tonight and I've got to keep the selectmen all in one frame. And this way, this is not even the experience, so right here. So last meeting, I gave the board of selectmen a proposal for the station manager position. And just to summarize, I think it's very important that we have a station manager for the TV station because the cable contract is up for renewal this year. It's a lot of work. We've got to get a capital plan together to really show the whole town's needs and also work with the school and the fire department, police department, emergency response, and to see what needs there are in the community. It's going to take a lot of time, and we also have to decide on a station location. And that's a big issue with the building that we're in now and whether we're going to stay there and possibly renovate it or move or what. And there's also a lot of programming. I think it's important that we show some forward progress with the TV station if we're going to get a good contract from Comcast and be able to negotiate that. And I think that we're just going to need it every town that I talk to and the attorney and the consultant that I talk to, their first question is, do you have a station manager for your salaries? And we've really just done it on stipend, and that's sort of why we haven't been able to get over the hump and only bring it so far. So I'd like to offer my services for that. I have some time availability this year to do it. I've been with the cable committee for 12 years. I'm almost embarrassed to say, and I worked on the last contract. I know it well, I know the issues, I know all the players, and I can see the vision for a more vibrant station coming together. And all this is not raised and appropriated money. This comes from the cable committee account, which comes from the Comcast franchise fees that they charge in the bottom of the bill. So part of that is negotiating whether we want to take 2% of their TV revenue or more, and how much of the TV station we need. And one of the big issues, as our attorney raised, is because of the nature of the cable business right now, and the fact that some people are cutting the cable and they want to do more streaming, this may be your last cable contract. No one knows what's going to happen with PEG access stations after this. We may, and this is something that one of the consultants told me today, plan not just for 10 years, which is the normal length of the contract, plan for longer than that, and how you can be self-sustaining. So, I work in media, that's what I do. I'm a magazine editor and writer by trade, but I've worked in video and I've worked virtually every job on the cable committee that there is. And that's my story.
Sure, that's an interesting point. I just wonder, what would it cost for the technology to switch over to streaming? Because I think that's happening faster than any of us appreciate.
We're really going to have to look at that in the plan and how we do that, how we manage it. And I think as we look at what equipment needs we have, where do we go with that? Part of what we talked about with the meeting Friday with the consultants here was to equip this room, which we're already getting quotes on. One of the companies suggested, why bring in a $20,000 fiber fee from Comcast and able to broadcast from this location when you can send the video over the internet to our server. But the consultants that I talked to Friday said that's going to really slow down. What you want to use is mass broadband to do that. And maybe you can get a carrier that's with mass broadband, and we have a line, I believe, right down Baldwin Road. regular station. So while I think I said the last meeting, they told me to stay away from mass broadband in terms of the negotiation. They're saying, whether if you wanted to tape a meeting here and send it to our broadcast facility without running sneaker net and DVDs, that would be a way to do it. So that's another thing I'm gonna have to look into.
Any questions from the board? I guess, Steve, does the town have any requirements in regards to posting before we fill a position?
In this case, I would say yes, because they're not a 501c3. They're still part of the town. So the town rules apply.
Okay.
If they move towards becoming a nonprofit corporation, which I think is the standard now, just about everywhere except Shrewsbury, then they have their own rules. But at this point, it would be something we would need
Now,
to
what are your
post.
intentions there, Steve? Are you going to do the 501c3?
I believe so, and I think, it's not something that we talked about before in the previous iterations, the cable committee, the other members were opposed to doing that because of the work that's involved. But I think Bob made an excellent case at the last meeting, and the attorneys have made a case that we really should be 501c.
Okay. Now, the position itself, do we have a job description? Do we have any idea of how many hours, compensation?
I believe I gave
It's
you a proposal.
all here.
last meeting, or last meeting.
It's up to 20.
Right.
Here, it was $50 per hour or a flat fee, or what does that mean?
I didn't know how you wanted to pay it.
Okay. So this
Right
is,
now, I'm earning a nominal stipend that's paid quarterly. And
okay, so this is subject to, okay, I wasn't sure what,
Because I didn't know what the procedure was either.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Doesn't have to go to town meeting. Right?
Well, if they're going to continue to be a municipal entity, then we'd have to play by the rules and go to town meeting. If they're going to go towards a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, then all we would have to do would be to draft bylaws for the Templeton Cable Corporation. And you'd have to accept the bylaws, and then they're underway. So I think that decision on which way to go is important now. And if there's an intention to go towards the 501c3, I don't think that it's that difficult. Plus, we already are going to have an attorney very familiar. We just need to prepare the incorporation papers, which are not difficult, file them with the Secretary of State, and we can get that done. We can draft bylaws, and this is not a big project because they exist. Models are available for us that we could use to prepare bylaws for the group. Methods of appointing the board. As I said last time, there are important advantages in not being a governmental entity.
Right.
And so that means the board would be appointed in part by the select board, but you would not appoint a majority. If you appoint less than a majority of their board, then it's not considered governmental by the courts. So, if you want to take several weeks on this, I could work with Steve and put it together, come up with job description, set of bylaws, and get the papers of incorporation ready, and then a job description for a station manager, and then we can go forward.
How does
Okay.
that affect where you are right now? Because I know that we're trying to negotiate and everything was about,
Yeah, it's
Timing?
It's about to
I just-
ratchet up pretty intensely right now because we're trying to close out what they call the ascertainment phase, where we're ascertaining the town's needs by the end of June. And hopefully by June 22nd, that will give us 6 months before the contract expiration date. I think legally to stay within, to be able to